Good morning out there, everybody. This is Morgan Denny over in Portland, Oregon for the PT on Ice Daily Show. For those of you who don't know, I am a big fan of PTs becoming better at questions that are directly related to primary care. I'm also a fan of PTs getting more involved in understanding some of those aspects. Good morning, Jordan, so that we can start to refer patients to the correct provider more appropriately and more effectively, right? So this morning I wanted to talk a little bit about that from the pelvic floor aspect of things. I am really lucky that over the years I've gotten to work with a handful of amazing pelvic health therapists, both in Haiti and stateside. And one of the things that has allowed me to do is just ask direct questions to PTs about the contributions of the pelvic floor within other types of orthopedic injuries, right? It's also allowed me the freedom to be able to refer some of my patients to pelvic health therapists for consultations, to be evaluated and screened while I'm treating them. And that freedom has really given me the understanding to know how much pelvic floor can really play into people's orthopedic type of injuries, even when it doesn't seem like that's on board right off the bat. And so I've learned over the years how important that can be to the ability of someone to get through their injury or their pain pattern or whatever it is, which has also given me the freedom to start asking more questions. So over the years, as I've kind of learned how important it can be, it's made me more comfortable being able to ask pelvic floor type of questions in order to get those patients into the right type of treatment more effectively. Because I'm not a pelvic health therapist, but knowing some of these questions has really allowed me to, or allowed my patients to get the help they need sooner, right? It also gives you a little bit more confidence because asking some of these pelvic health type of questions is not anyone's forte right off the bat. Saying the word vagina or talking about sex is not easy with your patients, when you're just getting to know them or on day one. But once you start getting comfortable and understanding and appreciating how much these things can play into your patient's pain pattern, it makes it a lot more comfortable. So when I stumbled across the Cozy and Pelvic Dysfunction Screening Protocol, it's actually kind of hard to say in the morning, I wanted to share it. So this screening protocol was basically developed by Herman and Wallace, which is a really large continuing education pelvic health training program or group, right? And so they created this protocol in order to sort of weed out some of the stuff that didn't matter as much and really rule in some of the questions that when the answer was yes, really indicated a high level of pelvic floor involvement. So I wanted to bring up this protocol because I think having it can really help people who are beginning with their patients to understand where the pelvic floor plays in, to just read it, to get more comfortable saying some of these words, but also to be able to send it home with a patient so that they can fill it out. And that also goes for when patients are a little bit more uncomfortable themselves. You might send it home with them just so that you don't have to have that conversation. Or for patients who have trauma in their background, who aren't comfortable talking about it, being able to send this protocol home with them could be a really comfortable way for them to give you the information that you need so that you can get them on the right track without making them too uncomfortable. So I'm going to read through this protocol or the questions. Don't worry, it's not that long. But I'm going to read through it so you guys who are listening have a better sense of some of the questions that are important. And then I'll post a link to it below. It's online as a PDF. You can download it, print it, put it in your clinical rooms, memorize it, whatever you want. So I'm going to read it, right? So the instructions basically say, check all that apply. And the first question is, or the first thing to check is, I sometimes have pelvic pain in genitals, perineum, pubic or bladder area, or pain with urination that exceeds a 3 on the 1 out of 10 pain scale, with 10 being the worst pain imaginable. I know we all don't love the pain scale, but it's working here. Number 2, I can remember falling onto my tailbone, lower back, or buttocks, even in childhood. Next question. I sometimes experience one or more of the following urinary symptoms: accidental loss of urine, feeling unable to completely empty my bladder, having to void within a few minutes of a previous void, pain or burning with urination, difficulty starting or frequent stopping of a urine stream. Next question. I often or occasionally have to get up to urinate 2 or more times at night. Next one. I sometimes have a feeling of increased pelvic pressure or the sensation of my pelvic organs slipping down or falling out. Next one. I have a history of pain in my low back, hip, groin, or tailbone, or have had sciatica. Next question. I sometimes experience one or more of the following bowel symptoms: loss of bowel control, feeling unable to completely empty my, straining or pain with a bowel movement, difficulty initiating a bowel movement. So those are all in the same question. If any of those apply, that one is marked a positive. Next one. I sometimes experience pain or discomfort with sexual activity or intercourse. Sexual activity increases one or more of my other symptoms, or prolonged sitting increases my symptoms. So that's the end of the screening protocol. So what that screening protocol does is if 3 or more of those are positive on that protocol, then that means that the pelvic floor is involved in some way, shape, or form. Now, does that mean that everyone who gets a 3 or more on this protocol, their pain is completely derived from pelvic floor? No, absolutely not. Like, it doesn't give you this like magic wand where you're like, oh, your knee pain is definitely from your pelvic floor, go see this other therapist. No. But what it does do is it gives you a tool, appropriate questions that you can start asking to get you comfortable with understanding where that's playing in. And this is something where this might be a patient that you've treated for a month and you've gotten them 60% of the way, but you're kind of like hitting a roadblock. Maybe pelvic floor is involved. Or this could be the groin pain or that hip labral thing that just won't quite clear, and people are thinking about surgeries. You might be able to save them a surgery by getting them a referral to the appropriate therapist, right? So that they can clear up that pelvic floor, that internal stuff. I've had patients that I've referred to pelvic health therapists that I work with, again, that I'm lucky enough to work with, who have had pain that I just can't quite get it. Like, their symptoms don't fit into the box. They don't cluster correctly, and there's nothing that we do that really changes stuff dramatically the way that it should from my experience. And those patients, I've sent to see people that I work with at the clinic who basically evaluate and treat, and they know exactly where that pain's coming from because they can literally put their finger on it from an internal exam. And that's something that me, and I'm not a pelvic health therapist, I'm not going to get to. So being able to have this screening protocol or know some of these questions can really help us to get our patients to the right provider sooner. And knowing when to ask those questions is hard. It's not going to be comfortable, and it's not necessarily going to be day one on eval. Hi, my name is Dr. Morgan Denny. It's nice to meet you. Let me ask you about your pee. No, that's not going to happen. But as you're comfortable with the patient, or if the patient's giving you information that's leading you to believe the pelvic floor might be involved, hey, let's get that screening protocol out, right? Let's bring that out of the chart holder on the wall sooner than later, or at the end of your session, say something about the pelvic floor and its contributions and how we just want to make sure it's not involved, and send them home with the screening protocol. As you get better at knowing where these questions lie and how they fit in, you won't need the protocol right in front of you, right? You'll just start asking these questions. You'll go down this chain of thought. But until then, have the screening protocol in front of you. Because as consultants, right, it's our job to give people the information that we glean from evaluating and from our experience, and be able to allow them to make the choice. Because some patients, we're going to explain the pelvic floor and what an internal exam is and an external exam and how it works, and they're not necessarily going to be comfortable with that or ready to explore that option. But at least you've put it on the table. You've made it an option for them. It's their choice, right? And it doesn't mean if they see a pelvic floor therapist that they're not going to see you, right? It's not an if or, it's an and. You can co-treat together. Or if they go see a pelvic floor therapist and it seems like that's where the magic lies, great. You did a great job. You got them to the person that could help them. It's like if you as a therapist have a patient who you're treating for shoulder pain, but they also have this crazy dizziness that's unexplained, you're going to ask some questions about that dizziness, and you might refer them to a vestibular therapist. Similarly, as consultants, we need to get better at knowing some of these questions so that we know when to refer to a pelvic health therapist. So again, I will post this below, the Cozian pelvic dysfunction screening protocol. Difficult to say, but not so difficult to read. So I'll post a link to it below so that everyone can have it in their office, print it, use it at will. And with that, the song of the day is Sing to the Mountain by Elephant Revival. I'll post that below too. Have a great day, everybody. And remember, just start getting comfortable asking some of these uncomfortable questions. All right, peace out.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.